In the heart of a bustling, indifferent city, where faces blur and hearts harden, Jonathan Reed, a billionaire built on ruthless deals and cold logic, steps out of his chauffeured car. His days are consumed by boardrooms and bottom lines, but tonight, something pulls him toward a small, run-down food cart, glowing under a flickering street lamp. A simple indulgence, he thinks, just a quick bite before returning to his penthouse world. He orders his food, unaware that fate is quietly watching, just as Jonathan lifts the sandwich to his mouth, ready to indulge in a simple pleasure that contrasts with his otherwise sterile and privileged world. A voice slices through the thick hum of city noise, sharp, urgent, and soaked in desperation. "Don't eat that. It wasn't just loud, it was raw, the kind of cry that doesn't just ask, it begs. It doesn't echo, it hangs in the air, stopping conversations mid-sentence, halting foot traffic, and drawing every eye in the vicinity toward its source." Jonathan freezes, the sandwich inches from his lips. Around him, people turn, curious and confused. A man in a business suit steps back. A woman clutches her handbag a little tighter. The bustling city momentarily stills. He lowers the sandwich and pivots slowly, annoyed but intrigued, his eyes searching through the crowd until they land on a boy, maybe 10 years old, standing alone at the edge of the sidewalk. The boy's clothes are a patchwork of wear and dirt, too large for his thin frame. A ripped flannel shirt hangs off one shoulder, and his jeans are frayed at the ankles. His small, bare feet rest on the cold, grimy concrete, reddened from exposure. His cheeks are streaked with grime, and his dark hair is tangled and matted. But none of that is what catches Jonathan's attention. It's the boy's eyes, wide, wild, and unwavering. They burn with a fire that cuts through the layers of grime, defiance laced with fear and sincerity, eyes far too knowing for someone his age. "Please, sir," the boy repeats, his voice cracking now, louder, more urgent, as though trying to outrun time itself. It's not safe. A hush settles over the small crowd gathering near the food cart. All at once, the illusion of a simple dinner is shattered, replaced by tension so thick it makes the air feel heavier. The food vendor, an older man in his late 60s with a weathered face and grease-stained apron, slams a spatula down on the griddle with a clatter. His expression contorts into rage. "You again?" the vendor barks, pointing a trembling finger at the boy. "You little rat, always hanging around lying to people, trying to ruin my business." Jonathan, sandwich still in hand, turns to the vendor. His brow furrows. "You know him?" the vendor scoffs. "He's a street kid, a pest. Keeps shouting nonsense to scare customers off. Don't listen to him. Probably just wants your money." But Jonathan doesn't respond right away. He stares at the boy, who hasn't moved a muscle, his chest rising and falling rapidly, his body rigid like he's prepared to run or fight. Jonathan takes a slow step toward him. "What's your name?" he asks, his voice even, but with a slight edge of curiosity. The boy hesitates. "Liam." "Well, Liam," Jonathan says, "why would you tell a complete stranger not to eat something?" Liam swallows hard, glancing warily at the vendor. "Because I've seen him," he says, voice quiet but clear. Late at night. He pulls meat out of the dumpster behind the market. Old stuff, rotten. He mixes it in with the fresh food. There's a collective murmur in the crowd now. A man near the back mutters, "That can't be true," while a woman with a stroller edges away from the cart. The vendor explodes. "Lies, he's making it up. Kids like him will say anything to get attention. Don't you see? He's dirty, he's homeless, he's nothing." Liam flinches at the words, but doesn't back down. His chin lifts slightly. "I've seen people get sick. I saw a man puke right over there after eating here 2 days ago. I thought he was going to die." Jonathan's fingers loosen around the sandwich. He studies the meat, its slightly off color, a strange smell he had initially dismissed as just street food funk. Now it hits differently. He drops the sandwich into a nearby trash bin. The vendor throws up his hands. "Seriously? You're listening to him? You think some stray kid knows more than a man who's been cooking food longer than you've been alive? But Jonathan doesn't answer. His attention is fixed on Liam. Something about this boy, his fear, his nerve, the sheer desperation in his voice, reminds him of something, of himself maybe, of someone he used to be long before suits and skyscrapers and silence became his whole identity. There's a flicker of something in Jonathan's chest, a weight, a pull, a memory. Without another word, he walks toward Liam, the street lamp above them buzzing faintly as the evening turns to night. "You hungry?" Jonathan asks. Liam blinks, uncertain, cautious. "Why? Because I think we need to talk," Jonathan says, glancing back once at the food cart, at the illusion of comfort it offered, and then forward toward something else, something real, and with that the two begin to walk, one in polished shoes, the other barefoot. But somehow, at that moment, equals in a world that rarely offers such chances. They walk together in silence, the sounds of the city dimming behind them as they move toward a quiet park just off the main street. The bright lights fade into the soft glow of old lampposts, flickering against the silhouettes of bare trees. A cold breeze picks up, rustling the dry leaves along the path. Jonathan glances down at Liam, who walks a few paces ahead, small hands shoved into the pockets of his torn shirt. His steps are quick, practiced. Like someone who's used to disappearing into the edges of the world, they reach a weathered bench facing an empty playground. The swings creak slightly in the wind. Jonathan gestures for Liam to sit, and the boy hesitates, scanning the shadows first before carefully settling on the far edge, as if afraid he might be forced to leave again at any moment. From his sleek leather briefcase, Jonathan pulls out a small, unopened bottle of water, clean, crisp, untouched. He offers it to Liam without a word. The boy takes it slowly, like it's made of glass, unscrews the cap, and drinks deeply, not with the reckless gulping of thirst, but with the quiet control of someone who knows how to ration. Jonathan notices the bruises on his arms, the way his ribs are slightly visible beneath the oversized shirt, the tiny twitch in his hand as he holds the bottle. He lets a few moments pass. Then, in a voice softer than usual, Jonathan asks, "What's your story?" Liam glances at him with guarded eyes, measuring whether he should trust a man in a $1,000 coat with his truth. But something in Jonathan's tone, unfamiliar, not commanding or cold, but human, encourages him. He exhales, and when he speaks, it's as if he's been waiting forever for someone to actually ask. "My mom got sick last winter," he begins, voice low and scratchy. "At first she just coughed a lot, said it was nothing. But it got worse. She couldn't go to work, and the bills piled up. One day she just didn't get up anymore." He pauses. The playground squeaks in the wind again. Jonathan doesn't say a word. "They told us it was pneumonia, that if she had gone to the hospital sooner, maybe—" He trails off, swallowing hard. "But she couldn't afford to. We lost the apartment. They came and took our stuff. We stayed in a shelter for a while, but there weren't enough beds. So we started sleeping behind grocery stores, in alleyways, anywhere we could." Jonathan watches, completely still. No boardroom, no earnings report, no negotiation had ever prepared him for this. "It's just me and my sister now," Liam says, the tremor in his voice now more noticeable. "Her name's Emma. She's 6. She cries at night sometimes, asking when we're going home. I tell her, soon. But I don't know if that's true." Jonathan's jaw clenches slightly. "Where is she now?" "In a shelter nearby," Liam replies. "They let her stay there because she's little. Said they're full for older kids. So I stay close. I sleep near the back entrance in case she needs me." Jonathan looks down, trying to suppress the growing ache in his chest. His fingers instinctively move to the watch on his wrist, a limited edition, worth more than what most families live on in a year. He stares at it, suddenly disgusted by its shine. Liam turns his face away, wiping at his cheek quickly, hoping Jonathan won't notice the tear. "I don't steal," he says suddenly, unprompted. "I might go through trash sometimes, but I don't take what's not mine. I just want to keep her safe, that's all. Jonathan takes a deep breath, the air burning a little as it enters his lungs. He's overwhelmed by the boy's bravery, by the terrible dignity he's managed to hold on to, despite having every reason to collapse. A memory stirs within him, sleeping on a mattress on the floor of a one-room apartment, his mother working 2 jobs, skipping meals so he could eat. He had promised himself he'd never go back to that life, and he hadn't. But in doing so, he'd left behind the part of him that knew how to feel, until now. The silence between them isn't awkward, it's reverent. 2 very different lives sitting on a worn bench, bound by something deeper than money or status, pain, survival, and a quiet, desperate hope. Jonathan finally speaks, voice almost hoarse.